Privacy is a word that seems simple on the surface, yet beneath it lies a landscape of complexity and debate that has evolved over centuries. What does it mean to be private? What counts as personal? And why does it matter who has access to the details of our lives? These questions have shaped laws, sparked philosophical disputes, and influenced the design of the world's most advanced technologies. To understand how modern privacy systems function and why they are necessary, we must first explore the foundations of privacy itself, its shifting definitions, deep historical roots, and the critical importance it holds in an age where information flows freely and invisibly all around us. The concept of privacy is what scholars call an essentially contested concept. Its meaning has never been fixed. Instead, it has been continually reinterpreted in light of changing social norms and technological advancements. What society considers private in one era may be regarded as public in the next, and vice versa. Even the boundaries between private and public life have never been universal. They have always depended on time, place, and circumstance. Evidence suggests that privacy's roots stretch back to ancient societies, where the distinction between public and private spheres was already recognized. As legal and political systems evolved, so too did ideas about the sanctity of the home, the secrecy of correspondence, and the control of personal reputation. The modern notion of privacy as a right, particularly in Western legal systems, draws on centuries of philosophical and political thought. The evolution of natural rights and property concepts, championed by thinkers like John Locke, influenced the framing of fundamental laws such as the Bill of Rights. These principles laid the groundwork for privacy to be recognized as a crucial aspect of human dignity, autonomy, and freedom. Early American figures like Benjamin Franklin took practical steps to maintain privacy, such as ensuring the confidentiality of mailed items, a concern that feels surprisingly familiar even in the digital age. In the late 19th century, privacy began to emerge as a formal legal concept, particularly in response to the disruptive forces of new technology. The invention of photography and the rapid expansion of the press sparked public debates about the right to be let alone. In 1890, a landmark article titled "The Right to Privacy" appeared in the Harvard Law Review, articulating the legal and moral justifications for protecting individuals from unwanted exposure. This was not merely a theoretical exercise, it was a response to real anxieties about how shifting technology could erode the boundaries people relied upon to live private lives. By the 1970s, a new technological revolution was underway. Mainframe computers enabled states and corporations to collect and analyze personal data on an unprecedented scale. This triggered a watershed moment for privacy, as lawmakers and advocates recognized that existing legal frameworks were insufficient to meet the challenges posed by computerized databases. In response, they developed the principles of fair information practices, guidelines that emphasize transparency, informed consent, data minimization, and accountability. The United States Privacy Act of 1974 was enacted to address growing fears about the misuse of computerized personal data, representing one of the earliest attempts to regulate information privacy at a national level. Today, there are hundreds of privacy-related laws across the globe. These range from common law torts and criminal statutes to evidentiary privileges, constitutional rights, and comprehensive regulatory frameworks such as the European Union's General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR. Each of these laws attempts to give individuals more control over their personal information and to set boundaries for how organizations can collect, use, and share data. In the digital age, privacy has acquired new dimensions and complexities. At its core, privacy is about individuals' control over the collection, usage, and distribution of their personal information online. This includes information privacy, who can access and use data about you, communication privacy, who can read your messages or listen to your conversations, and individual privacy, the right to solitude and self-determination. Each of these facets presents unique challenges, especially as the economic value of personal information grows and risks such as identity theft, financial fraud, and pervasive surveillance become ever more significant. But why does privacy matter so much? The answers are both practical and philosophical. Privacy is essential for protecting individuals from harm. Without it, people face the risk of discrimination, blackmail, and reputational damage. It is foundational for human dignity, enabling us to forge relationships, express ourselves freely, and develop our identities without fear of constant scrutiny. Privacy also establishes the boundaries necessary for personal development and social interaction, allowing people to experiment, make mistakes, and grow without the pressure of perpetual observation. The importance of privacy extends beyond the individual. Societies that respect privacy foster trust, encourage open communication, and safeguard freedom. Privacy is recognized as a human right in international treaties and national laws, not only for its intrinsic value, but also because it is an enabling right, meaning that it supports and protects other fundamental freedoms, such as freedom of expression, association, and thought. When privacy is undermined, it can lead to emotional, financial, and even physical harm, and erode the public's trust in institutions. Privacy is also about power. Control over information confers power over people. If someone else, be it a government, a corporation, or a malicious actor, has unrestricted access to your personal data, they can influence, manipulate, or exploit you in ways you may not even notice. This is why privacy, security, and anonymity are often discussed together. Though they are distinct concepts, they overlap in important ways. Privacy is the assurance that data is only seen by intended parties, while security refers to the technical and organizational measures that protect data from unauthorized access. Anonymity, in turn, is the state of being unidentifiable within a set of subjects. The digital age has brought new urgency to privacy concerns. Advances in information technology have made it far easier to collect, analyze, and share personal data, but they have also reduced individuals' control over what happens to that data. The proliferation of big data and the rise of what some call surveillance capitalism, where personal information is the raw material for vast commercial and political enterprises, have created new risks and challenges. Legal frameworks like the General Data Protection Regulation have emerged as major regulatory responses, seeking to reestablish individual control and set clear rules for data processing. Modern privacy systems are thus built on a set of core principles, many of which trace their origins to the fair information practices of the 1970s. These include transparency making, clear what data is collected and why, consent ensuring individuals agree to data use, data minimization collecting only what is necessary, accountability requiring organizations to be responsible stewards of data, and security protecting information through technical measures such as encryption and access controls. Data minimization is especially important. Laws like the General Data Protection Regulation and the California Consumer Privacy Act endorse this principle, not only because it reduces risks and enhances consumer trust, but also because it is cost-effective for organizations and makes privacy protection more manageable. Consent and preference management have become central to privacy compliance. Organizations must obtain explicit permission before collecting and using data, and they must provide simple, understandable ways for users to manage their preferences. This is not always easy. Traditional consent models, those long, unreadable privacy policies, often do little to protect users, as most people do not read or fully comprehend them. As a result, privacy systems must include user-friendly, transparent mechanisms that ensure individuals are fully informed and genuinely in control. The concept of privacy by design, first proposed in the 1990s by Ann Cavoukian, captures this proactive approach. Rather than treating privacy as an afterthought, privacy by design calls for privacy measures to be built into systems from the very beginning. It is a holistic approach, grounded in 7 fundamental principles, such as making privacy the default setting, ensuring end-to-end security, and embedding privacy throughout the entire data lifecycle. Privacy by design is now a legal obligation in many jurisdictions, including under the General Data Protection Regulation, which requires organizations to implement technical and organizational measures that protect data from the outset. To enforce these principles, privacy systems rely on a variety of technical tools and organizational practices. Encryption ensures that only authorized parties can access sensitive data. Access control mechanisms, such as role-based access control, attribute-based control, and capability-based control limit who can see and use information based on defined rules. These technologies are foundational for privacy protection, especially in cloud-based environments where data may be widely distributed. Managing privacy is not just a technical challenge, it is also a complex operational and social issue. Organizations face difficulties in tracking high-risk data, ensuring vendor compliance, and giving users meaningful control. Data breaches, the rapid growth and proliferation of data, and the need for robust privacy programs are all ongoing concerns. Compliance itself can be complicated, as organizations must navigate a maze of overlapping regulations, each with its own expectations and enforcement mechanisms. Balancing privacy with usability and innovation is another challenge. Poorly designed privacy settings can frustrate users and lead to weaker protection, while overly restrictive systems may stifle new technologies and harm the user experience. Striking the right balance requires thoughtful design, ongoing user education, and a willingness to adapt as threats and technologies evolve. In practice, successful privacy systems are those that build and maintain trust. Real-world case studies show that organizations which prioritize privacy by taking stock of their data, scaling down what they collect, securing it, deleting it when no longer needed, and planning for the future are better positioned to protect both their customers and their reputation. Privacy-enhancing technologies, such as methods for privacy-preserving analysis of sensitive data, are increasingly being used in sectors ranging from finance to healthcare. Despite all these advances, privacy remains a dynamic, debated topic. Its meaning and usefulness continue to be questioned, and new technologies such as artificial intelligence are raising fresh concerns about how personal data is collected, processed, and used. The harms that result from privacy violations can be both subjective, such as psychological distress, and objective, such as financial loss or discrimination. Ultimately, privacy is necessary not only for protecting individuals from harm, but also for safeguarding the ordinary conduct of human affairs. It is foundational to freedom and open societies, centering on the idea that individuals should have control over their own information. As privacy systems continue to develop, they must balance protection with innovation, usability with security, and the rights of individuals with the needs of organizations. Only by understanding the deep foundations of privacy, its history, its principles, and its enduring importance, can we hope to navigate the challenges of the digital age and build systems that truly respect the right to be let alone. Imagine the challenge of designing a privacy system today. The world is overflowing with new technologies, regulatory demands are tightening, and the very definition of privacy is constantly shifting. Yet, at the heart of every privacy system lies a set of interlocking principles and mechanisms, each designed to serve a single purpose: to protect personal information from misuse, loss, or unauthorized exposure. To understand how modern privacy systems succeed or fail, one must look beneath the surface, exploring not only the rules that govern them, but also the architecture and logic that hold them together. One of the most significant shifts in recent years is the rise of privacy by design, a philosophy that has evolved from a theoretical ideal into a practical necessity. In 2023, privacy by design solutions became more widespread, with companies embedding privacy into products and services from the outset. This change was driven not only by technological advances, but also by a surge in global regulations and heightened consumer expectations. Privacy by design requires engineers and business leaders to anticipate and address privacy risks from day one, weaving protective measures throughout the entire data lifecycle. Rather than reacting to problems as they occur, organizations are now expected to build privacy into their blueprints, ensuring that systems are resilient to breaches and compliant with evolving laws. The landscape of privacy law has only grown more complex. By 2024, the United States experienced a notable increase in state-level data privacy laws, each expanding consumer rights in meaningful ways. Individuals now have more control than ever before. The power to access, delete, and transfer their data is becoming standard. This expansion has placed new responsibilities on organizations, requiring them to conduct data protection assessments, especially when engaging in targeted advertising or handling sensitive categories of information. It is no longer sufficient to simply collect less data or secure it more tightly. Companies must now proactively demonstrate how their systems minimize risk and uphold individual rights. Globally, the regulatory web is intricate and diverse. Laws such as Europe's General Data Protection Regulation, Canada's Personal Information Protection and Electronic Documents Act, India's Digital Personal Data Protection Act, California's California Consumer Privacy Act, and China's Personal Information Protection Law each impose their own requirements. Despite their differences, these frameworks share core demands: explicit user consent for data collection, robust mechanisms for honoring data subject rights, and mandatory breach notifications. The effect is cumulative. Organizations must build privacy systems that are not merely reactive, but robust and adaptable enough to comply with a shifting patchwork of global rules. This has led to the development of resilient privacy frameworks designed to uphold both the letter and the spirit of multiple legal regimes. At the operational core of these frameworks are several key mechanisms. Data minimization stands as one of the foundational pillars. The logic is straightforward. The less personal information an organization collects and retains, the less risk it faces if something goes wrong. By limiting data to only what is strictly necessary for a given purpose, organizations reduce the attack surface for potential adversaries and simplify compliance with data access and deletion requests. This principle also aligns with consumer expectations. As privacy awareness grows, individuals increasingly expect organizations to avoid unnecessary data collection. Access controls are another central feature. These mechanisms ensure that only authorized individuals or systems can view or manipulate personal data. The complexity of access control systems has grown alongside the scale and sensitivity of data. Companies now employ a variety of models, each tailored to their specific risk profiles and operational needs. For example, some organizations use role-based controls, granting permissions according to an employee's position or duties. Others implement attribute-based or capability-based controls, dynamically adjusting access rights based on context or user characteristics. The goal remains the same: to prevent unauthorized viewing, copying, or alteration of sensitive information. Encryption is perhaps the most recognizable technical mechanism in the privacy toolkit. Advances in cryptographic methods have played a crucial role in securing data both at rest and in transit. The core idea is to render data unintelligible to anyone lacking the proper keys, so that even if a breach occurs, the impact is minimized. In recent years, new technologies such as quantum encryption and privacy-preserving algorithms have emerged, redefining privacy systems and promising to stay ahead of increasingly sophisticated threats. These developments reflect an ongoing arms race between those who seek to protect information and those who aim to exploit it. Consent management has also undergone rapid evolution. With new laws requiring explicit and informed consent, privacy systems must provide clear, granular options for users to grant or withdraw permission for data processing. This is no longer a mere box-ticking exercise. Systems must track consent across multiple contexts and ensure that changes are respected in real time. The right to be forgotten, once a novel idea, has expanded, giving individuals greater power to demand erasure of their data. Organizations must therefore build mechanisms not only for initial consent, but also for ongoing preference management and data deletion. The rise of artificial intelligence and machine learning has brought both promise and new challenges to the world of privacy. On one hand, these technologies are now used to automate privacy protection, scanning for vulnerabilities or flagging unusual data access patterns. On the other, their need for vast datasets and often opaque decision-making processes pose new challenges for privacy systems. Regulatory developments have begun to address this, with measures like the European Union Artificial Intelligence Act and updated state laws in the United States requiring organizations to adapt their privacy frameworks for artificial intelligence-driven data processing. This includes provisions for transparency, explainability, and the ability to audit algorithmic decisions, all of which must be embedded within the architecture of modern privacy systems. At the technological frontier, privacy systems are evolving to incorporate cutting-edge solutions. Blockchain, for example, is being explored as a way to decentralize data control, allowing individuals to manage their own information without relying on a single trusted authority. Biometric authentication is gaining traction as a secure method of verifying identity, while federated learning enables machine learning models to be trained on distributed datasets without centralizing raw personal data. These innovations are not merely theoretical, they are being deployed in sectors ranging from finance to healthcare, always with the goal of reducing risk and empowering users. The proliferation of privacy laws is matched by the rapid advancement of technology. By 2025, stricter regulations are expected to take hold, accompanied by accelerated development of privacy-enhancing technologies, particularly those leveraging artificial intelligence. Over 80% of the global population is now covered by some form of data privacy law, underscoring the universality of the privacy challenge. Organizations are being called upon to integrate privacy into every aspect of their operations, fostering a culture in which privacy protection is not just a legal requirement but a core business value. Artificial intelligence governance is emerging as a central trend. As companies deploy increasingly autonomous systems, they must ensure these systems are designed and operated in ways that respect privacy rights. This involves not only technical solutions, such as privacy-preserving algorithms, but also organizational commitments to ongoing risk assessments, human oversight, and accountability. Privacy systems must provide mechanisms for users to contest automated decisions, obtain explanations, and exercise their rights under the law. Consumer education and best practices remain essential. Even the most sophisticated privacy system can fail if users do not understand their rights or the tools available to them. Privacy systems must therefore include mechanisms for clear communication, accessible user interfaces, and ongoing support. This is especially important as decentralized platforms and privacy by design models become more common, shifting more responsibility and power into the hands of individuals. A defining challenge for privacy system architects is balancing protection with usability. Too often, stringent controls or complex consent mechanisms have the unintended consequence of frustrating users or hindering innovation. The best privacy systems operate seamlessly in the background, providing strong safeguards without sacrificing user experience or business agility. This requires careful design, ongoing monitoring, and a willingness to adapt as threats and expectations evolve. Secure architectures, another pillar of modern privacy systems, have also seen significant advancement. These involve not only technical elements like firewalls and intrusion detection, but also careful segmentation of data, regular auditing, and the use of privacy-preserving computation. Approaches such as federated learning and advanced cryptography allow organizations to analyze data and derive value, while minimizing exposure of personal information. Privacy systems must also be flexible enough to address new threats as they arise. The rapid shift to embedded systems, the increasing sophistication of cyber attacks, and the spread of artificial intelligence-based privacy threats require ongoing vigilance. Organizations are investing in continuous improvement, leveraging both technology and policy to stay ahead of adversaries. Ultimately, the anatomy of a privacy system is defined not just by its individual parts, but by how those parts work together. Data minimization, access controls, encryption, and consent management are each essential, but it is their integration that determines the system's effectiveness. As privacy by design becomes the norm and regulations tighten, the systems that thrive will be those that are adaptable, transparent, and user-centric. The trends for the coming years, including stricter regulations, accelerated technology development, and rising consumer expectations, point toward an era in which privacy is not a mere afterthought, but a defining feature of every digital interaction. As we move forward, it is clear that privacy systems are not static. They are living frameworks shaped by law, technology, and social norms, and they require ongoing attention and evolution. The core mechanisms may be well understood, but the landscape in which they operate is anything but settled. The challenge and the opportunity lies in building systems that not only comply with today's demands, but are resilient enough to meet the uncertainties of tomorrow. When discussing privacy in practice, the conversation quickly shifts from abstract principles to the messy realities that organizations and individuals face every day. The digital world is filled with cautionary tales, moments when privacy systems failed, sometimes dramatically, with consequences that extended far beyond the technical realm. Some of the most striking examples come from organizations that, despite good intentions or robust policy frameworks, found themselves at the center of damaging data breaches or regulatory crises. These failures are not just technical glitches or isolated incidents. They reveal the complex interplay of human behavior, organizational culture, and ever-changing external pressures. Consider what happens when a company's consent requests are buried in jargon or presented in ways that confuse users. Time and again, organizations have been penalized for unclear or misleading consent processes or for collecting data beyond what was initially disclosed. These missteps do more than result in legal fines. They erode public trust, sometimes irreparably. The aftermath of a breach or regulatory investigation can linger for years, tarnishing a brand's reputation and driving users to seek alternatives they believe are safer. Regulations like the General Data Protection Regulation in Europe, the California Privacy Rights Act in the United States, and Brazil's Lei Geral de Proteção de Dados have raised the stakes even higher. These laws require not only technical safeguards, but also a level of transparency and respect for user rights that can be challenging to implement, especially in large, complex organizations. While the damage from privacy failures is clear, the path to effective protection is far from straightforward. In practice, organizations must navigate a minefield of competing demands. They need to make data accessible enough to extract business value, yet secure enough to prevent misuse or unauthorized access. They must honor user rights and preferences, often across multiple jurisdictions, and respond to regulatory changes that can arise with little warning. All the while, they must ensure that privacy systems do not create unnecessary friction for users or employees. The tension between usability and security is ever present, make protections too cumbersome, and people will circumvent them, make them too lax, and the risk of exposure increases. These tensions are especially acute in the adoption of artificial intelligence within enterprises. As organizations deploy artificial intelligence to automate decisions, analyze customer behavior, or optimize operations, new privacy challenges arise. The sheer volume of data required to train and operate artificial intelligence systems raises the stakes. Additionally, the algorithms themselves can introduce risks, from unintended bias to the potential re-identification of supposedly anonymized data. Enterprises have become increasingly aware of the need for robust privacy systems to address the unique challenges posed by artificial intelligence. Not only must they ensure that data used in artificial intelligence models is collected and processed lawfully, but they must also grapple with questions of explainability and control, how to provide meaningful information to users about how their data is used, and how to respect requests for deletion or restriction when data is deeply embedded in complex learning systems. To address these challenges, organizations are turning to privacy-enhancing technologies, tools and techniques designed not just to comply with the law, but to make privacy a practical reality. These technologies take many forms. Some focus on minimizing the amount of data collected or stored, while others provide mechanisms for users to control or audit how their information is used. In sectors like healthcare or finance, where data sensitivity is especially high, organizations have adopted advanced encryption schemes and privacy-preserving computation to enable analysis without exposing raw data. These measures are not cure-alls, but they reflect a growing recognition that privacy cannot be achieved through policy alone. It requires a layered approach, blending technical controls with organizational processes and, crucially, a culture that values privacy at every level. Operationalizing privacy brings its own set of challenges. Keeping up with the pace of regulatory change is a constant task. New laws and regulations are introduced regularly, each with specific requirements for data handling, breach notification, and user rights. This creates a moving target for compliance teams, who must interpret the rules, adapt internal processes, and train staff, all while ensuring that business operations continue smoothly. Unsurprisingly, many organizations struggle to keep up, especially smaller firms with limited resources. The risk of falling short, whether through a missed notification, incomplete processing records, or failure to honor a deletion request, can be severe both financially and reputationally. Privacy systems must also contend with an ever-evolving threat landscape. Attackers are constantly developing new methods to bypass defenses, exploit vulnerabilities, or manipulate insiders. At the same time, the technologies available to defend against these threats are themselves evolving, sometimes in ways that create new challenges. For example, as privacy-enhancing techniques become more widespread, so do the methods for circumventing them, whether through social engineering, technical exploits, or legal maneuvers. This dynamic environment requires organizations to be vigilant, adaptable, and proactive in their approach to privacy. Regular risk assessments, security audits, and incident response plans are no longer optional. They are essential components of any serious privacy program. One of the most persistent challenges is finding the right balance between usability, security, and privacy. Systems that are too restrictive can frustrate users and hinder productivity, leading to workarounds or non-compliance. On the other hand, systems that are too permissive expose organizations to greater risk and may fail to meet legal requirements. Achieving this balance is less about finding a perfect solution and more about ongoing calibration, testing, gathering feedback, and making adjustments based on real-world experience. Some organizations have embraced user-centered design processes, involving users in the development and refinement of privacy controls to create solutions that are both protective and practical. Another aspect of the usability challenge is the sheer complexity of privacy choices. For many users, understanding what data is being collected, how it is used, and what rights they have can be daunting. Organizations that aim to empower users often struggle with how to present information in a way that is both comprehensive and easy to understand. Too little detail leaves users feeling uninformed or misled. Too much overwhelms them. Clear, concise communication, paired with easy-to-use controls, remains an elusive goal for many. The cumulative effect of these challenges is that privacy often becomes a moving target, one that requires constant attention and a willingness to adapt as circumstances evolve. Looking ahead, the landscape of privacy protection will be shaped by a combination of regulatory, technological, and social trends. The regulatory environment is expected to become even more demanding as lawmakers respond to high-profile breaches and growing public concern about data misuse. At the same time, advances in technology are opening new avenues for both risk and protection. Techniques such as privacy-preserving computation, advanced encryption, and federated analysis are already being deployed in some sectors, allowing organizations to derive value from data while minimizing exposure. While these technologies hold promise, they also introduce new operational challenges, from scalability and interoperability to governance and oversight. Artificial intelligence will remain a focal point for both opportunity and risk. As artificial intelligence systems become more capable and widespread, the need for privacy systems that can manage the unique challenges of artificial intelligence-driven data processing will only increase. Organizations will need to develop new approaches to transparency, accountability, and user control, ones that keep pace with the complexity and dynamism of artificial intelligence. The growing use of artificial intelligence in privacy management itself, such as automated risk assessment or anomaly detection, offers hope for more effective protection, but also raises questions about relying on systems that may be opaque or difficult to understand. The human dimension should not be overlooked. Technical and regulatory measures, while essential, are only part of the solution. The culture of an organization, the values it upholds, the incentives it creates, and the behaviors it encourages can profoundly impact the effectiveness of privacy systems. Employees must be trained not only in the mechanics of compliance, but in the underlying reasons for privacy protection. Users must be empowered, not just protected, with tools and information that enable them to make meaningful choices about their data. Achieving this level of engagement is no small feat, but it is critical to building systems that are resilient in the face of change. Perhaps the greatest lesson from real-world privacy systems is that there are no simple answers. The challenges are multifaceted, the risks constantly evolving, and the standards of acceptable practice shift as society's expectations change. Privacy protection is not a destination, but a journey, one that requires vigilance, adaptability, and an unwavering commitment to the principles of transparency, respect, and empowerment. As new technologies and regulations emerge, those who thrive will be the organizations and individuals who treat privacy not as a box to be checked, but as an ongoing process, one that demands both humility and ambition, both technical excellence and human understanding. Ultimately, the future of privacy will be shaped as much by decisions made in boardrooms and engineering laboratories as by the actions of regulators and innovators. The systems we build today will set the stage for tomorrow's possibilities and tomorrow's challenges. By learning from past failures, embracing new technologies with a critical eye, and keeping the needs and rights of individuals at the center, there is hope for a future in which privacy is not only protected, but valued, a future in which trust is earned, not assumed, and in which the dignity of the individual remains the foundation upon which our digital world is built.